I wanted to say hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Falling Apart podcast. We're a podcast loosely based on Leeds United. We have no inside line into the club. We are just fans. It's unlikely we're going to get inside line into the club. But I'm with you today to introduce episode 19. Now, myself, Ricardo, your lovely host, and Sambo, the technical wizard behind the podcast, are unavailable today. So we've left the podcast in the safe and capable hands of Tom and Jimbo. So good luck. I've got no idea what they're going to say. If we get taken down, we've really enjoyed having you. And here we go.
Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Falling Apart podcast. Interestingly, you've got a new host today, a younger, more good-looking model than Ricardo. So you're here with Tom and Jimbo. This is going to be interesting.
I was about to try and see whether we could get Sam to put the canned applause in when you said we've got a new host.
Yeah.
Do we think it's an upgrade?
It must be an upgrade, surely. I mean, let's see how this goes. We could be, as I've said in the group, we could be cancelled after this if they leave some stuff in that we will talk about, because we are the most rogue people that could be left alone on this podcast.
Well, there's literally no one to keep us under control now, is there? Which is
not at all.
exciting.
Yeah, not at all. How's your week been so far?
Being ill as fuck, to be honest. I'm coming out the back of it now, luckily. But yeah, I've caught the old man flu. Surprised I'm here, in all honesty. How's your week been?
You sound a lot better than you did earlier in the week.
I was bad.
And I think it's flying around, isn't it? Everyone seems to have something. Yeah, my week's not been too bad. Came back from Spain on Tuesday, so back into the swing of it. Feels like a lifetime ago, but, 2 Leeds wins on the bounce after a couple of days, I get much better, really.
No, you can't. It looked like a decent time, to be fair.
Yeah, I think we have to obviously say Ricardo, I think, is playing golf or something like that. Basically, I mean, I'm surprised that nobody hits his head because it's bald and shiny, so that people actually would think it was a golf ball. And Sam went out on the piss last night on a work night and is, what we can only describe, must be struggling because he's put in the group that he don't think he's going to make it.
Yeah, he said, in his exact words, he needs to go home.
Yeah, which is Sam down to a T on it. I mean, he also tried to video call us at 12:30 at night when he was obviously out on his Long Island iced teas or whatever girly drink he was drinking.
Yeah, and did he not? I mean, he's due for a battering when he gets home as well, because he did not try to call the missus at like 2:15 in the morning.
He did.
And she's just blank ignored him now.
He did.
Not gone back.
There's 2 reasons why he's going to get a battering. One from his missus from, trying to call her at 2 a.m, which, if Charlie, that is not a good idea. The second one is that Ricardo asked him to go for a beer on Sunday to watch the Liverpool-Chelsea game, and he said that he wasn't drinking. So, I think, he's definitely not in the good books. So, you're sort of left with us two today, which could go one of 2 ways. Like I said, this could be the best podcast or the last podcast.
Yeah, well, let's not give him any ammunition, because one thing we haven't done yet is time-stamped. So let's time-stamp this as well.
Yeah, so this is just before 6 p.m. on Thursday, the 24th of October, just in case anything happens in the Leeds United world or anything in that time frame. And I think we're just going to sort of go with the flow. There's not going to be a real person leading it. I think, Jim, you've got a few points you want to discuss, and then we'll see how it goes. And hopefully it's not the cancelling of the Falling Apart podcast.
And we're not like the Falling Apart podcast Chuckle Brothers version. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Which one of them's died?
I don't know. One of them. To me, to you. I don't know whether it's to me or to you.
So let's start, Tom, with, because I don't know how much you managed to watch. Did you manage to watch the game?
Yeah, I missed the first 10 minutes and turned it on and it was 2-0. But I have watched a lot of the highlights back. I think sort of as the dust has settled, as we spoke about, it's one of those games where no one's really going to remember it in a couple of weeks' time. At the end of the season, it's 3 points on the board, and that's what you need to do in this. You need to grind out results, even when it's not that pretty. And I think that's what it was. When we scored 2 goals so early on, and I know we spoke about on the 90 plus 15, that they were so both pretty much keeper's fault. Although, looking back, the second goal, the ball came in from Nonto and a player stepped in front of him. So I think he thought he was going to touch it. And then it sort of bounced in front of him and he's tried to do something. So I think that one was a bit harsh to say it was completely his fault. But to go 2-0 up so early on, I think killed the game, really. And Leeds didn't really need to come out and press as much. And then, as we spoke about in the second half, Watford came out with a bit of impetus and had a real go for that 5-10 minute spell. But then after that, it was again kind of in Leeds' control. I think one thing I would say, and we didn't really touch upon it, the Joseph miss was a big miss, but what a ball from Dan James outside of the right boot. Yeah, unbelievable ball. And one thing that Joseph needs to work on is definitely his finishing, because it's a big part of being a striker, and he does everything else brilliantly. But I think just that little bit of clinicalness is required.
I think it's a good point, to be fair, with Joseph, because I remember saying in the last pod, I said if he starts getting the type of service that he gets for the under-21s of Spain, he'll start scoring. But I mean, fucking hell, that was bread and butter.
Yeah.
It was put right on his plate. All he had to do was head it back across goal, and it was an easy finish, really, weren't it?
Yeah, I think that we would have scored it.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I'd have definitely put that in the stanch. Top bins.
Whether we'd have actually got there and had the pace to even get near the ball, I'm not sure, but I think it...
Well, no, we'd have been offside, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
We'd been offside.
I think if it had hit one of our meatheads, it'd have definitely gone in the back of the net. Just talk about Watford a little bit. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they were in and around the playoff mix. I know that's a big statement. Obviously, the two mistakes, the second one, like I say, a bit harsh, but I think they've got some good players in that team and look like they sort of know the identity and the way they want to play. And I think they've got some pacey, quick players, which will cause a lot of teams, weaker teams, a lot of problems. So I think they will pick up points.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I mean, they were a big physical team, weren't they? They got stuck into us in their midfield. Actually, they looked quite good in midfield. In the first half, we were absolutely all over them, but then their midfield seemed to get into it, and they didn't do a bad job at all.
And like I say, some good technical players in that. Czech Vitadze, their number 8, looked like a real, like he could create things and make things happen. And like I say, the pace and in and around there, they'll definitely pick up points in the Championship.
Yeah. So overall, we're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I think, like I say, it's not going to be a game that we remember, is it? I think the performance against Sheffield United was unbelievable and put a real stamp on how we can play and what we can achieve in the league. And I think Chris Wilder coming out after and saying no team will finish above Leeds, whether that was a bit of mind games, I'm not sure, but we're starting to pick up points. And even when we're not playing fantastically well, we're picking up points, which is a good sign.
Do you reckon that killed him saying that?
Oh God, did you see his face?
It's the person you'd love to fucking hate, but then when he comes out and says something like that at the end of the game, you're like,
yeah, do you know,
I still don't like you. I still don't like you, but yeah, you've carried favour with quite a few people there.
Yeah,
what you've said.
And he got absolutely hammered, didn't he? Some of the songs that were flying around about him, he got a serious hammering. So I think fair play for him to come out and have a bit of calmness about him, to say that about a team that he clearly absolutely despises.
I mean, at least he didn't get the Elton John treatment that he got.
Yeah.
It wasn't Savile, it was Elton John.
I think wasn't there a song though, it wasn't Savile, it was Chris Wilder.
Oh, was there? I wasn't there, remember, I was down in London, so I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, no, there was that, and then pretty much when we scored, it was just constant abuse for him. And I won't be able to say the other song that we were singing, but it was about children, so you can imagine.
Yeah, we'll park that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so what about one of the things that happened in that game, and I think it was a bit of a turning point, to be fair. Largy, who's not quite large, he's very small, obviously went off with what Farke came out and said was a rolled ankle. Now, I'm getting to the point where I'm getting really pissed off with what Farke does when it comes to injuries. Because he comes out and says it's a rolled ankle, potentially 1 or 2 games. He did this with Ampadu. With Ampadu, he said, it's not as bad as what we first thought. Next thing we know, he's fucking out till Christmas. With Largy, did you see his post yesterday?
Yeah.
He went full Terminator. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Doesn't quite scream 1 game to me, that type of post. I'm not sure what you think.
Not unless he's extremely dramatic like Sam. He's had a few cocktails and he thinks that it's the end.
Imagine if he's on the bench on Saturday after posting something like that. We'll never trust him again.
On after 45 minutes, and then he's like, I'm back.
Yeah, the big fucking drama behind it.
I would say, I know, I agree with what you say with injuries, and I think a lot of managers are good at saying it's too far. It comes out after the game and it's like, it doesn't look that bad. Actually, just say, look, we haven't done a full diagnosis yet. We don't know at the extent of the injury. Don't come out and give people hope, because then it just crushes people. And I think that's looking like what he's done with Largy, like you say, with the post. You wouldn't think that's just a rolled ankle and a week or 2 on the sidelines. It sounds like it could be, like you said, sort of ligament damage or something maybe a bit more sinister.
I mean, I guess the only benefit, it's not a benefit, but the only positive out of all this, if it is probably the one position where we've got a lot of decent cover. It's not as though we've just lost another central midfielder or centre-back, is it?
No, not at all. And I think, like you say, Manor Solomon, Dan James, you've got players in that can come in and quite comfortably, again, probably one of the best wingers in the Championship. We've probably got 4 of them that are up there, haven't we, that you can choose from. So it's a position where we've definitely got cover. I think the only thing I'd say is I think Largie's looked really bright since he's been in there, and I think causing defences a lot of problems, a bit like Cree did for a long period of the season last year, and to lose that momentum a little bit. And like I say, I know we're going to come on to Firpo, but that left side now for Bristol is going to be completely changed. And does that disrupt the flow a little bit? Let's wait and see.
True. And do we think that Largie's got better dance moves than Cree?
Definitely.
Did you see him and non-stop throwing out some shapes?
Definitely. It's a bit like you dancing in Mean-Eyed Cat Bar in Leeds. Proper shapes being thrown. And I've seen you on a night out with that backflip. You've definitely got that down.
Fucking hell, if I tried that now, I'd break my back. So, yeah, you've just touched on it, but there's a slight bit of concern, isn't there, with the bookings and suspension side of things. So Firpo gave us his customary... I mean, how much money could you win on Firpo if every single game you pretty much banged on £100 for him to get a yellow card over the last couple of seasons?
Massive amounts. I'm guessing the bookies now, and I haven't looked at the odds on him at the start of the game, I'm guessing that he must be one of the favourites to get booked.
You'd owe them money, probably. Put £100 on, you'd owe them a tenner.
Yeah, but it's always the case, isn't it? And I think we've spoken numerous times on the podcast that he is brilliant going forward, and I think we've seen that this year and in the back end of last year, but definitely a bit shaky defensively against quick, tricky players, which, like I've said, Watford have got down that right-hand side, so it was inevitable that he was going to get booked. I think it puts a question mark on, like I say, Byram coming in, potentially, or Schmidt, but I think it'd probably be Byram. But that question mark over him going forward, I think, is a little bit... He's definitely not as mobile and as direct, and he's not left-footed, which, again, creates that imbalance of him trying to come into cutting on his right foot when you can properly bomb on down the wing.
Yeah, that's true. So he's suspended. Luckily, and I'm not playing these down, but luckily it's not against one of the top teams in the league at the minute. And then we've got Rodon and Bogle, I think, one off.
Yeah, I think they're both one off. Did you see Bogle's challenge, where he basically tried to, I think, end a career of a Watford player and missed?
It was assault, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, not a pepper, and missed luckily. But again, he would have been banned, and that would have definitely meant Schmidt and Byram. But again, I think the good thing about the squad this year, other than central midfield with the injuries, is we've got options in all positions. And I know we're going to come on to the new signing to bolster that a little bit, but you get an injury in a position or you get a suspension, and we do have good cover. It's not like yes, Firpo's been brilliant and assisted, and is it going to be as effective? I don't think so, but you're bringing in a Byram who's got so much championship experience, so you're not really swapping somebody for inexperience or someone who's not a good championship player. And I think that's the benefit this season we've got, probably versus last season.
Yeah, that's true. Anything else on Watford? I think we feel like we've done that to death. What would be interesting is, did you see all the results last night?
Yeah, I know we spoke about it just briefly. I mean, Sunderland going away to Luton and winning. Did you see any of the? I didn't see any of the chat after the game. I've just seen that it was 2-1 to Sunderland. Anything interesting happen?
Yes, a very controversial Luton goal that wasn't given.
Right.
So if you watch the replays back, there was a player who was standing miles offside as a ball was crossed in. And it looked to me, it's a tricky one, this. It looked to me as though he sort of went back towards the ball to try and get it. Didn't get it, but then someone came around the back and slotted it straight in, who was miles onside, and it wasn't given.
Right.
There's a little bit of uproar on the socials about it. Not quite sure which way that would have gone with VAR, because the guy definitely does make an attempt to try and head the ball from the cross, and he's a good 2-3 yards offside. Would VAR give it? I don't really know, but I think the whole point of this is I'm starting to feel like Sunderland are this year's Ipswich.
I think so. The only thing I'd say is, obviously, the point against Leeds shouldn't have been a point, should it? And I know I can't get back into it because I'm already feeling my blood boiling thinking about it. I think the week after, they had another one where it was like a really fluky goal or something happened.
That's exactly the point. That not that where they are, but if we think back to Ipswich last season, we kept thinking that their run of luck was going to end.
Yeah.
We thought Christmas period, the depth wouldn't be good enough, so they'd drop off. They wouldn't keep getting the rub of the green, and fucking hell, the whole season they did. That's what I mean by I feel like Sunderland at the minute are getting all the luck.
Yeah.
Could end up continuing for the season because they definitely shouldn't have got a point against us.
No, definitely. And we also spoke, didn't we, that we thought when Jack Clark left, that'll be the end of them. They'd be back to that mid-table championship side. But they seem to keep grinding out and picking up results, which, like you said, how many times last season did we say Ipswich will drop off? They haven't got the squad. They haven't got the depth. Well, look at them now. They're in the Premier League getting battered every week.
Exactly. And what was really good to see last night, I think we spoke about this a couple of times in the pod. Obviously, you wouldn't know because you've been MIA for a couple of
Hey,
months
listen,
now.
I'm here now, aren't I? And those two fuckers aren't.
Fucking hell, you're carrying the torch. Imagine me just talking to me.
I feel like that 90 plus 15 when Ricardo was by himself and fucking hell, Jesus Christ. I hope nobody listened to that who was struggling.
I think that might have been one of our most viewed pods, actually, and it's probably him sat at home just listening to himself and getting his missus to listen to him again as well.
Just on repeat to get the listeners up.
Exactly, just to boost the followers up to say that he did it on his own, he can do it on his own going forward. But yeah, what was good to see last night and backs up the points that we made a couple of times, where the feedback from like Sam and Ricardo, they were a little bit shit scared of the Sheffield United game because of their results before that game. But we said they'd not fucking played anyone of any real substance at the top of the league. Came to us, we battered them, played them off the pitch, and they lost again last night.
Yeah, to Borough, again, who are a side that probably will be in and around there, aren't they? So, and I think that shows Wilder came out again and said, oh, we've got to remember that we've got young players in the team that haven't been there and done it, not much experience. So he's already talking as if he thinks that they're probably maybe a playoff push side rather than that top two, which is interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, Burnley haven't set the world alight. Obviously, Luton lost again last night. So for me, and I know we're early on, we haven't even left October yet, but the league's there for the taking. And I think if Leeds can keep players fit, not many suspensions, I think we've got a real chance of winning the league.
Fucking hell, that's a massive call that on the 24th of October.
Shall I do a Jimbo?
Don't do
my words.
Hey, fucking what a bell end. That's in now. That's in.
That's in.
Can't do it. Sam won't edit that out.
So I've got a feeling that Sam won't be able to edit anything after last night.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He might not even make his way back. He might not find his train. but yeah, from a league standing point of view, leaves us on 22 points. So we're actually joint second, but we're in third on goal difference. So we've got the same amount of points as Burnley. They've got one better goal difference than us. And then Sunderland are still in 25 points in first place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, overall, looking really good, looking really positive. So this bit I'm really excited about, actually, Tom.
Oh, God.
Because I'm really looking forward to you pronouncing our new signing's name.
Can I just say, I've got a picture in my head. I fucking don't even know his name. Let me have a look. I'll get it, and then I'll try and pronounce it for you. But yeah, I was hoping you weren't going to say that, to be honest, because I was thinking, I know what he looks like. I've watched a video of him, but
I've caught cold, haven't I?
But Josuha Guilavogui.
Now, have you heard his interview?
Yeah.
Because, by the way, it sounds fuck all like that. So I think for the purpose of this today, we just call him J or JG.
Yeah, JG. I think from looking at his, again, falling down the rabbit hole of looking at a player's YouTube highlights reel and seeing all the good things. I mean, he's 6'2" and he is a bit of a brute. He can play centre defensive midfield or at centre back, which I think gives cover at both, doesn't it? Which is good. And it looks like he gets stuck in, can win a tackle, but also can play a ball and pick a pass. So I think, again, let's see. He's 34 years old. I don't know what condition he is in from being a free agent and how quickly he can get up to speed. But I'm guessing if we've given him a contract, we're fairly happy with his fitness levels and that he can pretty much come straight in. I don't know if you've seen anything about him or...
Yeah, I've listened to his interviews, and the first thing I'll say about the guy is when you're listening to him doing an interview, you can't help but smile. He looks so fucking thankful to have got a contract with us, and that's not because he didn't have any other options, because in his interview he's openly said he had options, but they just didn't tick the right boxes. And when he speaks so well in terms of like leadership style. So I was looking at all his Instagram comments when he announced it yesterday, and they're all from ex-teammates, and the majority of them like title him as captain, because everywhere he's been, and he mentioned this in his interview, everywhere he's been, he's typically been the captain of the team, and his focus is not necessarily, he's aware that he's not going to play every single game. His focus is on how he can make people around him better and how he can like develop the youth and support them. So far, I really like the guy. I think in terms of his conditioning, like you say, he's 6'2". He's got a fucking 6-pack on an 8-pack. So he's absolutely shredded. It was only the last couple of weeks he's been over in Dubai, warm weather training. He's clearly in shape, and I don't think Fark's a mug. I've got a feeling Fark, I mean, we've still apparently got Coquelin on a trial with us in training, but we've not signed him. So the fact that we've signed this guy would suggest it doesn't just tick the boxes on the field for when we need him for cover. It ticks the whole side before self mentality that we're trying to have at the club.
Yeah. And hopefully he can take Ilian out for some typical French dish, frog's legs or something like that. They can have a real good chat about how to catch a fucking ball.
One of the things he did mention in his interview as well, Olivier Decor.
Really?
So he was talking about Decor because the interviewer asked him and said, are you going to be Leeds' Decor? And he obviously played it down. He's clearly quite a humble guy. But he said, listen, when I play with aggression, like I play with a lot of aggression, and he still speaks to Decor.
Wow.
So he's gonna pick his brains and get a bit more information about Leeds and how he approached it. So I think it's a good bit of business, mate.
Yeah, I do as well. I think as well, just touching on, again, I haven't listened to the interview, so touching on a point you made is you need players in and around the team, don't you, who are prepared not to play, but really give everything to the team as well. And that might not be that you're playing for 90 minutes, but it might be that you're on the touchline and someone needs an arm around and say, I've been there and done it. This is what I think would work and what wouldn't work. And I think that's probably what we've been looking for. And I think Coquelin, from reading a little bit into him and his Arsenal days and his Villarreal days, I think he's a bit of a live wire and a little bit of a liability off the pitch. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was a little bit in the thought process of, well, maybe if we can't get somebody who is technically as good on the pitch, then we'll have to sign him because we need the cover. But I think this has obviously come about when we thought, well, it fits the profile on and off the pitch and can really add, some value to the dressing room.
Well, Fark's always been big in his interview, hasn't he, about the likes of Ayling and Cooper, and he speaks a lot about what they're like off the pitch and around the training ground.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like he ticks a lot of boxes for them.
Yeah, and it's interesting this year, isn't it? Because we've lost a lot of players that have been in and around the team for a long period. You know, think of Coops, Ayling, Dallas. You've got some real players that were the heartbeat of the team when we got promoted and have been there and done it. And sort of that dressing room will be interesting today, won't it? Who are the leaders in there? And I know you've got Ampadu, etc., but you've lost a lot of core that got us promoted. And again, if you've listened to any of Bamford's podcasts and read anything about him online, but for all intents and purposes, he's looking to get his way out.
I mean, it's almost like you're reading what I've just been typing and adding to the running order, because after speaking about JG, my next point was Bamford potentially leaving at the end of the season, and what your thoughts are on that. Do we feel as though it's probably the right time for him now?
I think for a couple of seasons, it's probably been the right time. I think he's had a lot of stick, and some of it just, some of it unjust. And I think we felt probably for a couple of seasons that if he'd gone, it might have been the right time. Obviously, his contract's coming up to an end. I'd be really interested to see where he ends up. And I'm guessing it won't be in England. I would imagine him move abroad and maybe to somewhere like the MLS and get that payday, but also have a bit of the lifestyle. But yeah, an interesting one. And hopefully, although he wants to leave, and I think Fark probably knows that he's coming to the end of that, isn't he? So I'm guessing it's a mutual decision, but hopefully that if he is required, and he will be at some point in the season, whether we're chasing a game or if Joseph gets injured or if Pirot gets injured, ultimately, at the moment, he's third choice striker, isn't he? And he's not getting any game time, really. So you don't blame him for wanting to go and do that at his stage of the career. But hopefully he's still prepared and ready to really get stuck in and give his all for the team on and off the pitch, and doesn't become a distraction or a disruption.
Yeah, I think when we went up to the Premier, we had that season where a lot of it was behind closed doors. That was the season for Bamford, wasn't it? The amount he chipped in with a lot of goals that season, did a cracking job, weren't a million miles away from winning the Ballon d'Or. In my head. No, all jokes aside, he did a really good job. If I think back to that Aston Villa game where he got a hat trick that game, I think it was.
Yeah, it was. I think that was like yesterday it was like a few years ago, because it came up on X, and his finishing was brilliant. But again, do you think it played into his hands that there was no fans there?
Yeah, of course it did. Yeah, exactly that. And that's one of the main points, that the season that he really did it was behind closed doors. I mean, first thing I want to address with this whole Bamford thing, and I've got a feeling you're going to be brutally honest in your assessment here. Farke coming out and calling him a legend. Is he a Leeds legend? Yes or no?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you think of Leeds legends, your Lucas Radebys, people like that. I mean, you can't label him a Leeds legend. Yes, he helped get us promoted, but he's had probably 1.5 good seasons and been with us considerably longer than that. So to label him a Leeds legend, and I get what Farke's doing. Farke's, again, what he did with Cooper, Ayling, Dallas, he's trying to build them up so that they've got loads of confidence and they're still in and around the training ground and the team. Up, everyone's like feeling that legend status, I guess, is what he's trying to do. But do I think he's a Leeds legend? Do I think that in 2 years' time we'll remember Patrick Bamford? Absolutely not. I don't know what you think.
No, I feel exactly the same. I won't go as far as saying he's fucking miles off being a legend, but my issue with that is the whole word legend is thrown about way too fucking much. He's been a good player for us. He's been a good servant. That's what I'd say he is. He's been a good servant to the club. He's had a lot of shit, but what you've got to remember with this guy is he's fucking about as useful as a pair of chocolate tits. The amount of injuries that he's had recently, and the fact that, and again, this has probably come from one of Sam's spurious fucking links that he loves to speak about, but the rumoured salary that he's on is ridiculous. It's a decent portion of our overall salary as a first team. So I think it's the right time, but I think you've hit the nail on the head with what Farke's doing. He's going to be making it as comfortable as an exit as it possibly can be with the fans, I think. He's just reminding the fans that, listen, he has contributed really well to the club over the last few years, which he has. Can't argue with that. He's gone through some horrible fucking times, like death threats, where he's not hid the fact that he's thought about leaving. I think it's definitely the right time at the end of the season to get.
And I think the thing is, people take it too far, don't they? And it's the isolated incidents and that people get tarnished with. And to give him a bit of stick in the stands is one thing, but then to take it personal when he's got a wife and a young child is absolutely ridiculous. And I think we'll both echo it's not the way to show somebody that you don't think they're good enough to play for Leeds United at all when you take it off the pitch and into a personal setting. But I think, like you said, that legend status is thrown about far too much. And I think, like you say, and it's a great word you use, he's been a great servant to Leeds United and he's put some real sort of blood, sweat and tears into playing for us. But do I think the time's right for him to move on? Yes. And like you said, the salary that he's on, you could bring in 2 quality championship players for that salary.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. No one remembers the specifics. For example, when he didn't keep us up, when he missed that penalty against Newcastle, no one remembers anything like that.
Or Stoke away last year.
Better about that one either. There was one actually, and I'm sure I've got a picture of it saying, if I ever have kids in the future, how do I tell my kids that Patrick Bamford missed this chance? And he was pretty much under the crossbar with the ball coming across the box and died it. So, yeah, anyway.
In fact, I'll add the last point. Fuck him. I'll drive him to his new club.
Right. That's it for sort of the new signings and touching on Bamford. One of the things that I just wanted to mention to you, because I'm not sure if you've seen this, it's not quite Leeds related, but at the same time, we're always going to have an eye on this, aren't we? Have you seen the news about Archie Gray?
Yeah, I did see an interesting one. I saw a few bits on X of Spurs are thinking about loaning him out, which is interesting because I thought as part of any deal of Archie Gray going, it would have been, yes, you can have him, but we want him back for this season. I really thought that would be part, and I thought every club would have been, buzzing about that because he's playing for Leeds, a club that demands performances week in, week out with the fans, and he's going to play every game, 90 minutes of every game. So where better to play his football? But I don't know whether Spurs thought that potentially could come in and get some minutes for them, which I don't think is happening. So a question maybe for you, Jimbo, is would you have him back? Do you think he could get into the team, really?
So I think he definitely would not, in my eyes, get into that midfield anymore. I think if he was to come back, what we're seeing already, we've been blessed in a way with these injuries because Tanaka and Rothwell, we've not touched on them yet today. But fuck me, they aren't half grabbing their opportunity with both hands. They look incredible in there. If he was to come back, I think the only place he could potentially slot in would be at right back instead of Bogle.
I mean, would I have him back? Yes, because I think he'd have quality, wouldn't he? And even if it's competition for places, yeah, I think we've had question marks over Bogle defensively. I think, again, going forward, like, Ferg is an asset to us. And I think you've seen, and I don't know if you saw against, you won't have seen it because you were at the Sheffield United game, but at the Sheffield United game, basically when they have a picture of the pitch and all the players' numbers of where the positionings are. So basically, even the wingers, so Ramazani and Nonto and Aronson, were really central. And then our widest players playing pretty much right wing and left wing with Firpo and Bogle. So obviously, again, that's a method of the play that we're doing this season that they're a real focal point. So I think, would he get in the team today? No. Would I have him back on loan? Yes, because you never know what's going to happen in a couple of weeks' time, especially with Bogle flying in with challenges like he did against Watford. And in a busy schedule, that competition for places with quality players is definitely required. I think it's an interesting one.
I do, and I think you're right, actually. The issue with if he was to come back, it sort of changes Farke's whole system then, because he is more of a fullback, whereas we are clearly playing with wing-backs this year. So could he do the whole Ayling bomb forward, Bogle bomb forward type of thing? Or would he just be better from a defensive perspective, which it would be better defensive?
And I think, sorry, I know you just touched upon Tanaka and Rothwell. My God, do they complement each other with the way they play. Tanaka is just everywhere, flying in with challenges, just an absolute workhorse. Every time Rothwell gets the ball, which again, and again, I'll sort of circle back to get you to answer this, always bombing forward. He gets the ball, he's always going, even if he can't drive forward, he's passing forward. And I don't think we've got that in the midfield areas. If you think when Gruev and Ampadu are in there, we don't have that at all. So a question for you, Ampadu comes back in, Gruev comes back in, everyone's fit, who plays?
Yeah, great question. So I don't think Gruev gets back in. I think the issue with Ampadu is he's obviously going to get back in. He's the captain. But you've absolutely nailed it there that Gruev and Ampadu are very similar. I was trying yesterday and I just tried again this morning. I can't quite get it yet, but I really wanted to get Rothwell's stats in terms of yards gained, because every time he gets the ball, like you say, I think there's always a 10, 15 yard burst forward. So in answer to that, I know it's a long-winded answer. I think you'd probably stick with Ampadu, and I reckon he'd go with Tanaka.
Yeah.
Which would be a real shame in my eyes, because Rothwell looks undroppable for me at the minute. But unfortunately, if your club captain Ampadu comes back, he's getting back into that team with Farke.
I think, and it's going to be interesting, that if we continue in the form that we're doing and the way we are, they don't come straight back in. And I know it's club captain. There's no way that Farke at the moment can change Tanaka and Rothwell, other than if it's a Friday and a Tuesday game or a Saturday and a Tuesday game, you might have a bit of rotation there. But yeah, the way them two are playing at the moment, and we've spoken about the 90 plus 15 against Watford, and I know you guys are doing it at Sheffield United, it's either been one of them that's been man of the match. So how can you drop them? And like you said, it would be really unfair for him not to be playing at the moment with how forward thinking he is and how well he's played in the time that Gruev and Ampadu have been absent.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And did you hear Farke's interview after the game against Watford?
No.
I mean, he couldn't praise Tanaka enough. It was waxing lyrical about him, which why wouldn't you be? I've not seen a player cover that much grass and get that ball back as much as he did in that first half for a long time.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about that is Farke wanted him last season, didn't he? And he decided to wait a year. It almost makes you think that year he could have developed quite a bit and it's been really clever business from Farke. But it also makes you think, fucking hell, we might have actually gone up last season if we'd have got him.
And you wouldn't have been crying into your Guinness in that bar in King's Cross and then ordering some random people some shots of Jaeger and spending £100 on that.
Yeah, I wish I fucking knew their name as well, because I'd call them out because you owe me some money. That couple, whoever you were in King Cross, who drank my fucking Jaeger bomb and took advantage of me at my lowest point, I'll find you and you'll owe me that money when I see you.
Hey, maybe it'll be at Wembley next year.
Well, let's hope it's not. Let's hope we don't need that.
Although if it was,
interesting.
we could have an absolute unbelievable trip and actually stay down this year.
True. That is true. But yeah, so Archie Gray thing, see where that goes. It's a bit disappointing to see what's happening with both him and Somerville. I don't think Somerville's got his chance yet, but his chance will come.
Yeah, I think West Ham
yeah,
are having a bit of a tough time, aren't they, at the start of the season and struggling, which with a player like Cree is a bit of a luxury player, isn't he? So if you're struggling, then he's not going to be in there. Have you seen Georgie?
I have seen him, and I tell you what, everyone's seeing the player, because we saw this, 80% of the time? He's a magical player, isn't he? The differences between him being a magical player at Brighton versus us last season is there's another 3 or 4 magical players in that team. Whereas with us, I feel like last year, if he didn't have a good game or Somerville had a quiet game, as a team, we have no one else to pick up the baton. He's smashing it. It's great to see.
Yeah. And I think some of the stuff you're seeing is the magical Georgie that we know. And I will just take you back to a few podcasts ago when we were talking and I think heartbroken's maybe a little bit strong, but I'm going to go with that word because that's the only thing I can think of, that he left. Because Cree, I knew, was going to leave. Archie was going to leave. He was the one that I think for all of us was a bit of that dagger that you weren't expecting, and it just sort of happened. And I said that Brighton will turn him into £100 million player. And for the way he started, and I know it's early days, but, he started like house fire, and that confidence that he needs is breeding. So
yeah,
the confidence that he needs to play the way he does, the fans I know we mentioned early on, didn't we, in his days, some fans were saying, Jesus, can we send him back? 40 million's too much. And now they're waxing lyrical about him. They can't get enough of him. So I think, like you say, it is great to see because he did love Leeds and you could tell that he was really upset to go. And realistically, if we got to Premier League, he wouldn't have left and wouldn't have wanted to go. But great to see that he's had a good start and long may it continue.
Yeah, and the scary thing with him is he's only 22 still.
Yeah.
So he's absolutely nowhere near his peak. Which brings me nicely onto the final last bit that I wanted to touch on before we look forward at the Bristol game. I just wanted to mention this guy because I feel like we're so fucking lucky to have seen him tear up our pitch and just the performance that he gave us. But I wanted just to have a big shout out and a quick chat about Rafinha.
My God.
And what he's actually doing now, not just for Barcelona, but for Brazil. Did you see last night? Did you see his hat-trick against Bayern?
It just, every time I watch Sky Sports News or see anything on X, it's about him scoring goals and just absolutely tearing it up. And he's captain. It's one of those players where you'll wonder, and I'm going to mention Victor Orta, and that's the type of thing that Victor Orta can do. But it's 1 in 50, isn't it? It's 1 in 20 or whatever the number is. And unfortunately for Leeds, at the time that Victor Orta was there, we couldn't afford the luxury of finding that 1 in 20. Man City can, because they've got the first team. They need to find the next level to that. How we got to see him in a Leeds United team, in a struggling Leeds United team, I mean, we knew he was special, didn't we? The way he played, but he's gone on to be an unbelievable, and probably at the moment, the way he's playing, one of the best players in the world.
Well, I was just going to say, prediction is that if he carries on at this pace, he's going to be a Ballon d'Or winner in the near future.
100%. And he's one of those players as well that looks really humble. You look at some players that are a bit flash and you go, well, if you talk about Cree Somerville, not on the same level, by the way, I'm not saying that, but he is a player that loves himself. And I think Rafinha is the other end of that, where he's very humble and probably doesn't know how good he is.
I think what we forget with him as well is he got married at Leeds and got married in a church in Leeds as well. He had his wife there, well, now wife. He had her in the middle of the stands with the fucking away fans. He's got his dog still chilling around Leeds in a Barcelona in a Leeds United collar and lead. It's just a real quick one because I can't. They wanted rid of him. That's the really strange thing. They wanted to get rid of him. I think Xavi wanted rid of him and he dug his heels in, and now he's clearly proving just the type of player that we all knew he was. But yeah, that's it for...
Just on that final point, I mean, the sad thing is we're talking about a lot of players who are like, how good were they? If you think about like a Georgie and then a Rafinha, we are at the moment a stepping stone club, aren't we? And I think we're going to be for the next probably 5 to 10 years at the very least. And that's just where we are in the trajectory of the club. To see those players live in the flesh and have them in a Leeds United and the explosiveness and how exciting they are to watch it's kind of one of those things where you sort of say, is that acceptable with where we are at the moment? And would you have that going forward if you could see those players for a couple of years and then they move on to, unfortunately, bigger clubs?
Yeah, and you know what? If anyone's got an issue with that, just fucking enjoy them. Because the likes of Tanaka as well, enjoy players like Tanaka, because £3 million, we've been quite lucky over the last couple of years to see some really fucking good players. We'll get there, though. We'll get there in the end, where hopefully we won't be a stepping club, but we've got to be a big old powerhouse for that.
Yeah.
Last 5 minutes, Bristol City. Let's go into Bristol and let's do a bit of a review of the game. So, early kickoff on Saturday, right?
Yeah, 12:30, or as Ricardo would say,
1:30.
1:30. Oh yeah, that's because I'm in Spain.
Or is he trying to call himself like the fucking godfather of the pod or something?
I don't know, but do you know why he likes the golf course so much? Because he becomes the 19th hole.
Keep that in, Tom. So, what do they say about early kickoffs? Never back the early kickoff. Talk to me. What's your thoughts? What's your predictions? Always used to be a bit of a tough place to go away.
Yeah, I think, looking at the league table, the 10th in the league, and they're unbeaten in 5 games. So I know they've drawn 4 of those and won 1. Again, went away to... So they've drawn away at Sheffield Wednesday, went away to Borough and won 2-0, drew 2-2 to Stoke, drawn 1-1 with Swansea. So they've had some fairly tough games and unbeaten in 5. It's not going to be an easy place to go. And like we touched on, the worrying thing is the changes that we're going to have to make for Ferpa being suspended, Largy being injured. There's going to be some change in there, which hopefully doesn't disrupt us too much and means we should be going to places like this and winning with the team that we've got and the players that we've got. But early kickoff, championship game, anything can happen.
Very true. I echo the point. It's going to be a real tough game. I think it's probably going to be tougher than the likes of Sheffield United. It could be quite similar to the Watford game that we just had. I feel as though these are the type of games for us, though, where come the end of the season, they're the ones that really matter. Where on paper, you'd like to think we could get a result, but it doesn't always work that way for Leeds, does it? So,
and I think if you look at last season, all the big games, we turned up and performed, didn't we? And I think won the majority of them. It's these games that cost us. The games where you would expect us to win. You'd expect us to go to places and win, and something happens. Bamford misses a penalty, or these things happened last season, which we can't let happen this season. And we need to go there and really put a stamp on the game early on, get our noses in front, and then just keep playing the way that we know we can. And I think realistically, we should be fine. But I think, like you said, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a tough place to go.
And they've got, I think their top scorer at the minute is Naki Wells, isn't it?
Yeah, he scored 3 goals, Naki Wells, so far, who must be 107.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, he's been about since the first day of time, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into then predictions. Before, I'll tell you what we'll do, actually, because Ricardo loves it, and he'd be really upset if we don't do this. Let's go through the team. Now, probably quite an easy one. I don't think we need to do 1 to 11, but what changes do you see?
I think, and again, the hard thing is we haven't seen a lot of Schmidt and we haven't seen him in training, so Fark will have a bigger picture, but you touched upon it in 9+15. He's going to go with what he knows. So I think Byron comes in at left back, and I think that Solomon comes in at left wing, and the rest stays the same, which means Joe doesn't start again.
Yeah, I mean, you've chucked a curveball out there because I feel like I need to be awkward now because that's exactly what I was going to say. So just for the sake of fucking going against what you said, just to give the listeners what they want, I'm going to go with Byron. I agree. I don't think Schmidt's ready, but like I said in the 90+15, I think Byron will give us 60 minutes or so, and then we'll get to see Schmidt. He'll get a good goal then. I'm going to go with Dan James. I'm going to say that he's going to bring Dan James on. He's going to put him on the right. He's going to put Nonto on the left. And I'm literally doing this just to go against what you just said more than anything.
Yeah.
I actually think what you've just said is going to happen. I don't think Joseph will start. I don't think it was Pirro's best game against Watford compared to what he's done previously. He could have definitely scored, but I think he's done enough for us not to need to change it up top.
Yeah. And I think it's also, it depends on fitness as well, doesn't it? 'Cause as we know in the Championship, the games come thick and fast. We played Tuesday and then early kickoff in Bristol. So I'm guessing travelling down tomorrow, being Friday. So the turnaround's quick. So you don't know as well whether it might just be that does Perot need a bit of a freshen up when we bring Joseph in? Again, only Fark knows that. But I think the likelihood is that they remain and Byram and Manor come in and let's hope that they can just pick up where we left off, because I think it's going to make us weaker down that left side, definitely going forward. I think we'll be more solid because Byram, I think, is more solid defensively, but as we know, we're going to control 90% of most championship games this season, so going forward is where it matters.
So give me your prediction. Give me your score.
I think it's going to be a tight game with Bristol being unbeaten in 5 games. I'm going to go for Bristol City 1, Leeds United 2.
Okay. I think it's going to be a tight game. I don't think the score's going to reflect that. I'm going to go Leeds 3-0. But the game itself will not be representative of the score.
So do you think there's going to be a bit of quality in small patches?
Yes. Yeah. And I'd like to think, because I'm fucking fed up of saying this, I'd like to think that we're going to see an air of clinicalness.
It's got to come, hasn't it? It's got to
It
come.
has got.
We've got
Against Watford, I thought that was the game.
Yeah.
We said we're going to bat someone soon. But yeah, I've just got a feeling. Chances will be limited, but I feel as though we're going to take chances. And I hope I don't come to regret that, because my initial thoughts was like a score draw 1-1.
Okay, so I think to round it off, so we haven't said anything I don't think that will get us cancelled, which is always a positive, and I think we've done a great job with that, because me and you are definitely the live wires of this podcast, and this could have gone extremely south. So I think we've done a great job there. I think that's a pat on the back for both of us. Obviously, I've mentioned Ricardo's 19th hole. Have you got anything last to say for Sam?
Sam, I hope you don't die. But if you do, maybe you could send us like 40% of your net worth.
And then me and you won't have to work again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, I guess the main thing, Tom, for us to finish on is we're not doing emails anymore, because that's a thing of the past. So how can the listeners get in touch with us? By the way, I will mention one final thing before I pass back to you, Tom, just to finish and let people know they can get in touch. Ricardo was creaming in his pants earlier on in the week because we had a listener reach out to us and ask us a question. So just a quick thank you to What the Fark on X for asking the question about YouTube. For those who use YouTube and like to keep all of your pods stored in one place, we are going to be very shortly moving these onto YouTube. And we're closing in on the 20th episode. Keep your eyes peeled about a special. You may get some visuals of us on the 20th. We'll see whether we can make that work, and we may try and get a guest appearance on that show as well. Over to you, Tom. Finish it off.
I think that sounds great. So I think if you want to contact us, then we always accept messages via pigeon carrier. You can send those directly to Ricardo, and the pigeons like to land on his bald head. Jim, where can they contact us on X?
So our handle is at Falling Apart Pod.
Do you want to? I know for a fact that's not going to be edited out, but do you want to try and start that again?
At Falling Apart Pod, all one word.
Is that, sorry, just to clarify, because that confuses me a little bit. Is that at Falling Apart Pod, all one word, as in that's the handle?
Okay, we promised you wouldn't do this, and you're still doing it. So if everyone just ignores the fact that I've said all one word and just follows us on X at Falling Apart Pod.
Perfect. That's more clear in my mind. I might need clarification going forward as well, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode of us two rambling on to each other, and we will catch you at the next one. Bye.